Hey everyone. First of all, I apologize if this goes off. As I've mentioned before, it's had a tendency to do that lately. It's like after a few minutes or 15 minutes or whatever, it just decides, hey, I'm going to go off and I have to start all over. I have to, if it's beyond 15 minutes, I have to basically do a second part. But I thought I'd do this video because I was watching Andre's Black Nerd Comedy's review of the season 3 finale of Nickelodeon's TMNT. Now, just like with MLP, I don't watch the series as much. I only kind of read what people have to say online at places like IGN and several message boards and stuff. Or I watch and hear what people like Andre Black Nerd Comedy has to say in their reviews. So, anyway, you know, I listened to what I watched and heard what Andre had to say about the episodes that he saw and how the season finale came to an end. And I looked, when I watched his review and I saw the clips that he was provided with, or he provided, or they provided him with, or whatever, to me, I look at it and I'm like, okay, I give Nickelodeon props for doing something that seemingly no one thought they would do. Hold on for a second. I mean, basically, they basically killed off Splinter at the end of this episode. Yeah, spoilers in case you haven't seen it. They kill off Splinter. Basically, the scenario is, because the situation is so monumental that the Earth is in such peril, it takes heroes and villains working together to try to put an end to it. So basically what happens, spoilers here, is instead of going through with the plan to help save the planet, just as it looks like they're going to succeed in doing that, Shredder, the Nickelodeon version of Shredder in the show, this series version of Shredder ends up killing Splinter from behind. I'm not joking, folks. If you watch Andre's review of it, which is, I think it's dubbed Season 3 Finale, you watch his review, or you go on demand to Nickelodeon and you watch Annihilation Earth. And basically, Splinter and Shredder, they're running. This is what Andre did. He demonstrated they're running. They're kind of getting to this timer, and Shredder basically, instead of helping out to stop the timer and save the Earth, just at that last second, that last moment, as Splinter's very close to probably getting ready to get to the timer and shut it off, Shredder takes his blades right through the back and through the front of Splinter and kills him. Now, obviously you cannot kill a major character like Splinter like that, you know, in cold-blooded murder. You can't do that and then kill off the villain that did it. You can't. So, here's what I think is going to happen, because Andre was asking anybody, and it didn't matter if you watched the show religiously or weekly, or if you don't, or like me, you just listen to what other people have to say about it, and then you give your own opinion, and maybe think about watching it. I mean, I am thinking about watching it when Mona Lisa shows up, because I am one of those fans that are like, okay, you have Mona Lisa, you have Ninjara, and yet you've never used any of them in other future Ninja Turtle references. I mean, heck, I look at season 8, the Red Sky seasons of the original Ninja Turtles cartoon, and I'm like, this was the perfect opportunity to use Ninjara, and they didn't. Why not? I'm just saying. And I'm one of those fans that will probably just watch the episode or episodes with Mona Lisa in it, because she's been a character that if we had to have a character come back, this would be the character we wanted. But also the fact that when we would read, myself and other fans would read online, that originally one of the original scripts for season 8, the Red Sky seasons, called for her to come back and be part of the series, maybe for an episode or two. I was like, why didn't they do that? I'm one of those fans that's like, why didn't they do that? Who knows? But if I watch the series, I want to see what their take on Mona Lisa will be. Because if Zelda Williams, Robin Williams' daughter, she is as funny and as good as her father was. If she has that bit of a comedic side to her that she can bring to the Mona Lisa character and make it match sarcasticness and wit and even anger, basically be that foil for Raphael, then I'm going to have nothing to complain about. I just hope they do her justice in this reversion of the character. Now, speaking of season 4, like I said, Andre was wondering what our thoughts would be on it. And like I said, I don't watch the show, but as you probably noticed, I do collect the figures. I'm still a total fan. I'm not going to deny that. It's just, I'm one of those people like Mixed Fan 8643 that looks at the series and it's like, yeah, it's okay at first, but there's some decisions that they made that honestly, I don't think need to be made. I mean, I still stand by the fact that I don't think they should have put Casey Jones, April O'Neil as teenagers, honestly. And Mixed Fan 8643 as the media man agrees on that. It's basically, why in the world do you make these characters teenagers? Yes, you want to make it realistic so they grow up with the Turtles, but come on, everybody's used to seeing them as grown-ups. Why ruin a good thing? Anyway, long story short, that's just one of the things that myself and a lot of people have a problem with. We don't like what they did with April and Casey, or what they've done otherwise with other characters and stuff. Now, season 4 though, what exactly do they got planned? Well, if you've watched the 2003 to 2009 series, if you've watched that 6-season series, and you've even read the Mirage comics when they first started, with these characters to Triceratons and stuff, then you pretty much have an idea of exactly what direction they're going to go in. Now, in 2003, the Turtles were in space, no Splinter, no nothing. I think they didn't even have April like they do now. But they were in space and all that, nothing to help them out. Right? Nothing. So, no leader or anything except for Leonardo and stuff, but you kind of get the idea. So here's the thing, here's my theory. Somebody said in an article that there's a possibility that the way this story arc in season 4, the Turtles in Space season, is going to get wrapped up, is mostly going to be due through some kind of time paradox. In other words, Deus Ex Machina time paradox. In other words, something's going to happen to where the Turtles are going to find a way to look into the past somehow of either the battle that commenced on the Earth before it was sucked up into the black hole by the Triceraton, or they're going to look into the past as to when this whole thing with the Krang and the Triceraton started, and they're going to find a way to make it stop before it happens. Now, that possibly could be a reason. That could be a major, major reason there. And I would love to see or hear or read on how they're going to do that. But to me, I do agree that there's going to be some kind of Deus Ex Machina, time paradox, kind of, hey, look into the past, see what you could do to kind of change history or alter history to where, okay, our future is not affected that much, but this whole thing with the Triceraton and Krang, and the Triceraton coming down to destroy our world will not come into effect. So, to me, I think that would be really, really interesting to see, to be quite honest. I think that'd be really, really interesting to see. So, again, like I said, I think that would be really interesting to see if they go with one of those routes. I mean, if they go the route of looking into the past of how this whole thing with the Krang and the Triceraton started, maybe they'll find a way to go into the past, which some people are predicting, like in one article, and try to convince the Utron or whoever of the Krang that started this that, hey, look, you don't have to do this because guess what? All you have to do is keep your... I mean, basically they're going to come up with some solution where either if they have to go back in time and convince the Krang, Utron of the past, or even the Triceraton of the past of, hey, look, this doesn't have to happen, you guys can work something out, da-da-da. That'd be great to see. How they do it, I don't know. Another solution to me is them going into the past, back to the time of the battle in the Season 3 finale, and maybe one of them kind of get into, maybe, because of this connection Splinter has with his sons and all that, with the Turtles as his sons, if you will, it seemingly, when you think about it, crosses all kinds of barriers. Whether it's spiritual, whether it's near death, or possibly in this case, through time and space, I could see Nickelodeon pulling out something where Leonardo probably reaches out to his sensei and says, Sensei, Father, beware of Saki. He's going to try to stab you before you reach that timer. And you might have something to where Splinter, he'll realize that, sense it, turn around, do his badass thing where probably he just knocks Saki out right in the face, or Shredder right in the face or something like that, knocks him down, and then maybe comes up with, maybe points his blades in front of, maybe points Shredder's own blades in front of his face, say, hey, look, I could either let your blades go right instead, I can either, do the unthinkable, and that's end you right now, by putting these, through your face, or taking out your eyes or something like that, or doing to you what you were planning to do to me, or you can hold back, we can stop this thing from happening with the Triceraton, and then we can finally go at it. And to me, I think that might be the more logical solution right there. But how they get to that, if they get to that, is going to be totally up in the air. I mean, I'm sure any of you watching this right now are thinking the same thing, like, okay, how are they going to get to that part if there's no way they can get to it? And you think it's like, how are they going to get to that if pretty much it was shown that Splinter got killed? And to me, again, it's more about the fact that it's not just getting to that part. It's more about how they build to it, how they work towards it. And come on, honestly, if you think Kevin Eastman, who I think is contributing to this show, is just going to let Nickelodeon, because yes, Nickelodeon owns the franchise, but he still has a say in it, is just going to kill off Splinter like that? No. The way they've been building Splinter up, depending on the incarnation that you see him in, whether it's the original Mirage comics, whether it's the original 1980s cartoon, original late 80s to mid 90s original cartoon, or it's the 2003 to 2009 cartoon, or it's even this incarnation, or even the IDW comics, or even the Archie comics. The way they build Splinter up in this rivalry with Shredder, him dying like this, that's not how they're going to end it. I've already predicted, in my opinion, that they always find a way to give these two guys a final confrontation. Or at least one final big battle before one goes up, before they go the separate ways. One big battle that basically puts one, in this case Shredder, into reverse and be like, okay, I gotta replan all this crap. I didn't know this was gonna happen, da 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 da. So, to me, I know that's what they got a plan to do. You can't just have Shredder go like, okay, you're dead. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. And that's why I think, along with everybody else, there's a Deus Ex Machina time paradox coming into play for the finale. Now, there's another way of looking at it as well. There's another way of looking at it as well. Now, when I watched this episode, there were similarities to the 2003 series. First of all, the Turtles did get sucked up into space to battle the Triceraton and all that, and they did meet other characters and stuff in the 2003 series. That I understand, that I know. Now, on the other hand, Splinter doing all this was not dead. I mean, the Turtles thought he was dead, but he wasn't. We find out he was actually kept alive by the Utron, if you will. So he wasn't dead. He was kept alive. So I could see, in a sense, something very similar. Now, we see the spaceship come down with Dr. Honeycutt, the Fugitoid. But what we don't know is what happens with Splinter. Now, obviously we don't see, Splinter, obviously the Turtles, they would get Splinter even if he was dead and try to take his body to safety, try to give him a proper burial or send-off or whatever. But instead, this is what I think happens, and this will be a revelation in season 4. I think the Fugitoid, just before he got to the Turtles, saw what happened to Splinter, took him up, teleported him up into his ship, and will probably do the same thing to Splinter that was done in the 2003 series, and that's put him in a stasis pod or stasis tube, a healing chamber, if you will, a healing, rejuvenating chamber to heal his wounds, rejuvenate him, and bring him back to life. Because think about it this way, yeah, his eyes closed and everything, he was dying, or he had just died, but his body was still warm. In other words, life could still be breathed into him. So I think, in my honest opinion, that's what happened before the Fugitoid picked up the Turtles, April, and Casey. And I think on that ship, you have Splinter somewhere on the ship in a kind of rejuvenating, healing stasis tube chamber, being healed up, being rejuvenated, so that later on he'll come back and help the Turtles, give them the advice they need and all that. But I also look at this, season 4, as being a real trial period for Leonardo as the leader, and possibly as taking his next step as the next sensei. Think about it this way, if you've read the Ninja Turtle comics by Archie Comics, if you've watched some of the movies, if you've seen some of the cartoons, mostly 2003, you will know that Leonardo was always being put in position to be the next, to take Splinter's place. He was always the one to, if anything happened to Splinter, he was going to be the next master. He was going to be the next sensei. And that was a motorcycle outside. He was going to be the next sensei. He was going to be the next Splinter, if you will. So, to me, that's what season 4 is going to be like for the Nickelodeon Turtles. It's going to be like, this is going to be a trial period for Leonardo as possibly taking on the mantle of the new sensei, of the new master, of being the new Splinter. And April, I believe, this is going to be a huge character development season for her. I think her powers are going to continue to grow a little bit, and we might even find out that April might be mutating more. See, Nickelodeon's not going to come out and say, oh, well, this is going to happen, they're not going to tell you everything that's going to happen in season 4, or even season 5. But I do believe that as we get into these later